Hey everyone, Andrew here. So last year I did a list that I went through some good made-for-TV Christmas films. Cause let's face it, there's a lot of Hallmark Christmas films and a lot of Lifetime Christmas films and Up and Great American Value and all of those. There's so many of those Christmas films, and some of them are the worst trash I've ever seen. But then there's some that are actually really good, and it's really hard to parse through that. And I know I have friends and I have people that I know that are like they would never watch any made-for-TV thing, no matter who was in it or what it was or the plot or anything. They're just like, no, it's made-for-TV, it's garbage. I'm not watching it. And I disagree. I've watched a bunch of these. Sometimes there are some really good hidden gems in there. I did that list last year with the intention of it being the only time. Like, I had no intention of doing a follow-up, but then that also became one of my highly viewed videos. And I'm like, okay, plus there were definitely films from that I wanted to do last year that I just didn't get around to being able to talk about. I did cover 8 films last year, which was way too many. So I'm cutting that down to like 4 or 5 from now on. And I don't know if this is going to become an annual thing. We'll find out. But I think I have a couple that I really like to talk about and get into, because there are some good stuff mixed in. I'm going to be talking about 5 today. First one I'm going to be talking about, so this is in no particular order, just, 5 films that I think are pretty good and deserve a little bit of a watch. First one is called Wonderland. This one stars Cheryl Leigh from Grey's Anatomy, Paul Campbell, and Naomi Judd.
Kyler Lee, Paul Campbell, Naomi Judd. The Hallmark Channel original movie, Wonderland, an all-new premiere.
The story of Wonderland is that basically these 2 employees are working at a high-prestige Manhattan department store. One of those places that's like multiple levels and super fancy and is inclined for rich clientele. They literally have bathroom attendants in the restrooms. The department store is known as McGuire's, and basically McGuire's, every year for the last 95 years, they have a holiday tradition where they take their 2 big giant windows in the front of the store and they design them for Christmas and use that to draw people into the department store. Now, the woman who's been in charge of that has just retired. The person in charge of choosing who's going to be the next person has 2 people in mind. One is Cheryl, who is very business-oriented and very driven and wants to succeed in business and do well. She's not extremely creative, but she is determined and hardworking. The other is Paul, who is a layabout do-nothing, who gets by on looks and a good attitude, but he has a high artistic side to him and can create art like nobody's business.
This job is about projecting an image.
We're window dressers.
So the boss decides, well, the best way to figure this out, let's have a competition. We have it's a double window. Each of you gets one of the windows. You put up window spray twice a week, every week until Christmas. And the one who draws in the biggest crowd gets to have the job. Our 2 leads can't stand each other at the start. They're very much opposites, and they eventually start to attract, of course, as they get to know each other doing this competition, but then also working together to help each other in certain things.
Co-workers, they clashed.
Let me give you a hand.
Bickering is a sign of affection.
But now,
That cute Jake is very sweet.
their Christmas romance will be on display.
We find out that Shyler has an aunt that works at the store who is played by Naomi Judd, and she is one of the bathroom attendants. And
You look tired, sweetheart. Sleep is crucial for women like us. Oh, what's with the lipstick? I thought we covered that.
Don't start, Mom.
Cheryl's proud of her, but she doesn't want to, have it spread around that that's her family, so she's been trying to keep that on the down low, not even telling her fiancé about it. And then we find out that Jake used to be a real artist, went to art school, but then kind of dropped out and has been kind of waffling. He will go and pose at the local art school, and so that he can use the art space at the night when they're done.
Oh, no. Max sent you here, too?
Apparently he wants us to spend more time together.
But we also find out that he has been living in the department store, that he is friends with one of the window washers who gave him a code. Then he just basically sneaks in, sleeps in like the bed display, washes up, and goes to work.
Home sweet home.
She, of course, finds this out and goes to confront him, and then the door is locked, and they are trapped in the department store together.
Welcome to my humble abode.
For how long?
A couple weeks, like 8. The door is locked.
Okay, so how do you get out?
I don't. Not till morning.
With no signal and no way of contacting anybody. Which, of course, leads to all the drama and all this and the other.
Good morning, sunshine.
How long have you been sleeping?
It is very much a rivals turn to lovers kind of story, but it's really sweet, really heartwarming. It's got some great characters, good performances. I really love the leads in this. Like, they do a really good job with this. Honestly, I really like Shyla. I think she's a great actress. I apologize if I've been butchering her name for this whole thing, but like, she was always good on Grey's Anatomy, and she's even better in this. And it's just a really good, heartwarming story. I also really like the fact that it shows what it's like when you work at a place that is required to be open for the holidays. Like, it was really kind of interesting, because there's a point where Shyla is talking about her family and what they do, and basically they celebrate Christmas on the
23rd. That's an interesting tradition.
Christmas Eve.
Eve. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
well, my family usually works on holidays. Holiday pay.
Sure.
because they have to be at the department store for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So they celebrate it early, and it's not treated as this, oh, you miss Christmas thing like it is everything else now, because like, if anyone in any kind of business nowadays in Hallmark tries to not go home for Christmas, it's the biggest, you turn your back on Christmas type of thing. And it's just like, no. Sometimes you have a job that requires you to work on Christmas. As someone who has a job like that, I get it, and it was nice to see that represented in an interesting way. Unfortunately, this is also a format that Hallmark goes back to a lot, of the rivals, competition, getting to know each other, developing this and the other. I think this is one of the better adaptations of that idea. Is it the best? But I think it has a lot of fun to it, a lot of good characters, and it's just a blast to watch. I enjoy watching it. It makes me smile every time. Moving on, Borrowed Hearts. Now, this was a CBS show or film from 1997. It was actually pretty popular back in the day. So it stars Romy Downey, who's most famous for being on Touched by an Angel, Eric McCormick, and Hector Elizondo, which you might, yeah, his face is pretty recognizable. I remember him mostly from Princess Diaries.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Roma's is basically a recently divorced mom. She's taking care of her kid. They're having to live in a small apartment complex, sharing the room with everything, and she's been working hard in this factory to get money to buy a house for her and her daughter.
Good morning.
Hey,
So how'd the house hunting go?
check it out.
For this? Well, who's your realtor, Cat? Herman Munster?
So they can have their own space. And then the factory that she happens to work at is being run by Eric McCormick's character.
Well, if it isn't our fearless leader himself. The man goes through more women than a manicurist.
His business is on the downhill, and he wants to try and keep the business alive and keep it afloat, and he knows that he has to get a financial backer, which is a gentleman played by Hector Elizondo. And Hector is very particular about the people that he teams up with, the people he works with. He's very family-oriented, and people that have a family and supporting family and family businesses and things of that nature. And Eric, while his business is from the family, he is a single debt person.
When I got back from Mexico, I told you I had to polish your image a little bit.
Well, by giving me a family?
He's technically in a relationship at the start of the story, but she... Eric decides, like, okay, the only way to do this is I have to have a family. I have to show a family, present a family, and have him believe I have a family. He was going to actually hire actors to pretend to be his family.
What's for dinner?
How should I know? Ask the servants.
Dad, can I have a car for Christmas? Please?
But then he ends up running into Romy and her daughter.
Man, I will find another family. What do you think, Dave? They're just gonna walk in off the street?
Hello.
And talks with them and figures out, I was like, I have a deal for you. You pretend to be my wife and my daughter.
We need to rent a family to help us to do business with somebody. Now, it's a couple of days, $1,000. What do you say?
He's kidding, right?
I'm afraid not.
And basically, you get to stay in my house for a couple of days. We get to spend Christmas. You get to have nice meals. At the end of this, I will give you the money you need to get your house, and we will save the business, and this will all, balance well. And Romy's not really wanting to do it. She doesn't want to mess with her daughter's development because she's been in a sad place since her dad left because he had to go on a PGA tour because he's a professional golfer. Kind of, sort of.
It was better when Daddy was here.
Well, he's not here. And we have to accept that he may not come back.
But knows that she needs the money, so she agrees.
Deal.
Oh, not so fast. I need to discuss this with my daughter. Zoe, listen to me.
Mommy, take it!
I guess we have a deal.
And they basically redecorate his house to make it look like people actually live in it. And
House it's lovely, but it doesn't exactly look like a family lives here. In fact, it barely looks like you live here.
Hector shows up, and Romy's daughter is obsessed with him. She thinks that he is an angel because her grandmother basically told her, oh, angels are, constantly around us. You just have to be looking for them and they will find you.
But if they're invisible, how can I see them?
Well, you have to look really hard because on Earth they wear their wings inside so they can look just like you and me.
And so she thinks he's an angel who will help her get her dad back and all this. And it's just this sweet little story about, this guy and this woman getting to know each other, pretending to be a family, but then developing real feelings.
Right hand blue.
Right hand blue.
That's it? That's it? Give me an easy one.
Left hand red.
Left and red. Here's easy. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
But also, balancing the truth with the lies. A whole lot of shenanigans happen.
I love you, Zoe. And I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. Yeah.
The ex-husband shows up and basically tries to blackmail to get, more money.
I don't see how that's any of your concern.
What concerns my wife and child concerns me.
Ex-wife.
Still, what do you think this Javier Del Campo would say if he knew they're not your family? Oh, I just need a little something to tide me over till I get back on tour. Say, somewhere north of 10,000, somewhere south of 20.
And it's a really good, heartwarming story. It is one where I'm kind of like, I'm really sad because it's like one of the last things we saw of Romy Downey in. I'm not entirely sure what happened to her after this, but she just kind of disappeared as far as I know. It's a really good drama film. It's got some really good heart and really good comedy and really nice, warm feelings of it. It's one that isn't actually that hard to find. I picked it up on DVD like really easily, and it was extremely popular from everything that I remember about it and from what I've heard. So it is one that I really recommend if you like a little bit more of a dramatic, weightier story. Number 3, A Christmas Kiss, or A Kiss for Christmas. I've seen it under both titles, but I really know it as A Christmas Kiss.
Elizabeth Rohn, Laura Breckenridge, Brendan Fair, A Christmas Kiss.
Now, this one has a bit of a reputation because the plot is kind of insane. Like, even the Cinema Snob did a whole video on this, and yeah. So, A Christmas Kiss is a Lifetime movie, and the plot basically is that Laura Breckenridge is an intern who's working for a interior designer, trying to become a designer herself and a party planner and all of these things, and she's just stuck getting coffee and doing whatever Elizabeth's character tells her to.
Complete this list by noontime. Isn't Emily your maid? She's my employee, just like you're my employee.
Wendy Walton was in a rut.
She used to work at the theater as a set designer and a costumer, and now her friend is the costumer over at this theater. She goes to visit her friend at work while she's working on the Nutcracker, and her friend's like, "Oh, how about I dress you up like the Sugar Plum Fairy?"
We work some Nutcracker magic on you.
You're not gonna dress me up like a dancing snowflake, are you?
No snowflakes. I was thinking Sugar Plum Fairy.
Okay.
So they put her in this dress and do makeup on her face and tie up her hair, and she ends up getting into this elevator, and a gentleman comes in, played by Brendan Furr.
Let me guess, Snow Princess.
Sugar Plum Fairy.
And the elevator breaks down, and she and the gentleman start to get close, and they both are, you know, starting to feel something, and she basically leans forward and kisses him. And then the elevator starts working, the doors open, and she just takes off.
This doesn't feel right.
It actually kind of does.
This story is basically Cinderella. Like, it is because the next day she goes to work for her boss, and her boss is like, "Oh, I'm over at my fiance's place." And she's like, "Okay." So she goes to visit her boss at her fiance's place, and her fiance is Brendan Furr.
Hi.
Hello.
How did you ever...
I'm Adam.
Darling, you're early.
Who doesn't recognize her at all because of the makeup and all of that stuff. But no, you know something's going on with him because he's having second thoughts and acting a little different than he was at the start. Yeah, very much Cinderella, trying to figure out who, like, without the slipper, instead of a slipper, it's a kiss. Brendan Furr's character is a wealthy socialite who runs basically a business, but also a charity. And he's planning a big gala for his charity, and he wants his fiancée Elizabeth to plan it.
My family's foundation is sponsoring the City Ballet's performance of the Nutcracker, and I wanted to throw some sort of cocktail party for the sponsors and donors before the performance.
I would be overjoyed, and...
Like, turns to Laura, and she's like, "You will design it." And Laura's like, okay. So Laura gets to know Brendan Furr's character and finds out that he's a big fan of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. In fact, he owns a first edition copy of it. And so she ends up designing this elaborate party with 3 Christmas trees, each one designed after one of the ghosts. You have the Christmas tree of past, Christmas tree of present, and the Christmas tree of future. And Elizabeth doesn't like any of these designs. She just like, whatever.
Do you know there's a first edition of the Christmas Carol?
Of course I know that.
Well, I was thinking that maybe we could use that as the inspiration for the design.
That is such a horrible idea.
And she goes and presents her own designs to Brendan, who hates them, doesn't particularly like them, but then she sneaks in Laurel's designs, and he immediately is like, "Oh, these are perfect. I love these." And she's like, Elizabeth's like, "Yeah, sure, they're my designs, of course."
Come look at my designs.
This is exactly what I was looking for.
This is my design.
You work for me.
To make
So then Elizabeth's like, "Okay, I have to go."
over again.
Let's put it by the door. Adam can't see me like this. I'm gonna go to New York and see my mom a couple of days.
Laura, you're in charge of setting up the party. Don't screw it up. So now Laura is stuck planning and designing the party that her boss stole the designs of for a guy that is her boss's fiance that she is starting to develop feelings for. And he may or may not be developing feelings for her. And it is a wild story. Like, it is just kind of over the top and a bit ridiculous, but it has a lot of heart to it and a lot of warmth to it. Like, there's a lot of Christmas Cinderella stories, and this one is pretty good. It's one I really like. It has logic flaws and things that are just like, a little bit, but it's made up for by having really strong performances and really strong actors. Like, Laura Breckenridge and Elizabeth Rome are great, but then Brendan Furr just kind of hits this out of the park. Like, honestly, I recommend any of the Christmas films with him in it. He's always stellar in pretty much everything I've seen him in, going from Roswell up to The Night Shift. Like, he did a Christmas film not that long ago called Royally Wrapped for Christmas. It came out in like 2021, where he played a prince who pretended to be a normal person, met a girl, started having feelings for her. Then he went back home, and she got hired in his planner, and so she now knows that he's a prince, and they have to figure out if they have real feelings for each other, or if this could work, or if he has to give up any feelings for her for his duty. It's not a great film, but his performance in it is stellar. Like, he plays a European prince, and he has a really nice accent that works really well for the character, that he never drops or has any moment of wavering in, which is really impressive. Like, there's so many of these prince goes to da-da-da-da and meets normal girl thing, and almost all the time it's just the guy with a normal voice or just his normal British accent or whatever. Like, it gets ridiculous sometimes, but he went above and beyond for a film that really probably didn't deserve that much effort.
Miss Peterson.
Lindsay, please, Your Highness.
Lindsay, I wanted to ask you to forgive me for deceiving you in New York. I meant well.
Honestly, it was a bit of a relief to find out you were the prince.
We call it even then. I deceived you, you labeled me Grinch-hearted, which I admit was refreshing.
But I would say he did an extremely good job in A Christmas Kiss. Like, he balances it well. You can really see the struggle that he's having between what he believes he wants and what he's feeling and what he thinks he might want, and it just works really well. So there were 2 sequels to The Christmas Kiss. There was A Christmas Kiss 2, and then there was A Merry Kissmas. I don't recommend either of them. They're both pretty bad. Especially A Merry Kissmas. Christmas Kiss 2 has one redeeming quality, which is that the evil boss lady from this one, Elizabeth, has a redemption arc. Basically, after the events of this first one, where she lost the guy and lost her employee and got humiliated in front of people, she went on a journey and figured out what was important to her and what she really wanted and how to better herself. And so she ended up becoming a better person, and then she met someone and it just clicked and she fell in love, and she gets us something of a happy ending. It's only 5 minutes of the sequel, so I don't recommend the sequel for that, but it is a nice thing to see a villainous character, who she was bad, but she's not a monster type of thing. It was nice to see a redemption arc for a character like that. But Christmas Kiss 1, I think, is this perfect balance of fun and schmaltzy, but also cute, but also romantic. It just works really well and is balanced overall. Next, we have the most recent of the films. This came out just last year in 2022. It is not technically a Christmas film. It is a Hanukkah film. Hallmark has started doing this, where they're now doing like Hanukkah-themed Christmas films, or Hanukkah-themed Hanukkah films, if you want to put it that way. And most of them are okay. There's not too many that I would say are amazing, except for this one, which is called Hanukkah On Rye.
It's a new romance with an old-world twist.
Aha! So the matchmaker was right.
Hanukkah On Rye.
So this one is basically Shop Around the Corner or You've Got Mail. It's got a lot of You've Got Mail's energy in it. Basically, it stars Yael Grobglass and Jeremy Jordan.
Honestly, the first thing I heard was they're making a Hanukkah movie, and I said, yes.
There's not a whole lot of movies made about Hanukkah.
Yael is the daughter of a New York Jewish deli owner who's very rooted in tradition and keeping things the same, and he's training her to take over the position.
Hanukkah, Bobby, I don't have time for deep thoughts, just latkes, dreidels, and menorahs.
The shop across the way has gone out of business, and she's thinking about buying it and expanding their shop. but finds out that there's another deli, Jewish deli from LA that is looking at the property and is considering buying the property. And she automatically doesn't want this because if there's another Jewish deli across from a Jewish deli, one of them is going to go out of business. Plus, her family is all about tradition and keeping things the way they've always been, whereas the other Jewish deli is barely a Jewish deli. It has food from all over the world. It just brings in new items and just constantly adds to the menu and never takes anything off, and it's barely a Jewish deli at this point because it's just from everywhere. She ends up running into this guy, and she starts having, talking to him and getting to know him, and she starts to like him at first.
I'm Molly, by the way.
Jacob. Jake.
Hi. Here, I'll give you my number.
Oh, flattered.
I'm not hitting on you. I'm just being a good neighbor.
Oh.
Besides, you're not my type.
Oh, okay, what's your type?
Men who can open a mailbox without help.
But then she finds out that he is the son of the other deli's owners. He is scouting a possible future location for their deli. So she immediately bristles and doesn't want anything to do with him.
So this is Gilbert's, huh? All dated.
And goes off home. Her mother, who's been trying to get her to date and get her to go on their same relationships, says, "Oh, okay, so I set you up with this magic Jewish matchmaker. She has a 100% success rate, but she has her rules and you need to follow them."
I've signed you up with a very famous matchmaker in Brooklyn.
No texting, no email. What's left? Writing letters?
Can you imagine if people still used a matchmaker?
I bet it's nice to get to know someone on a deeper level.
She picks the person that you're going to be matchmaked with, of course, but you don't get to meet the person until a certain point. You can only communicate through handwritten letters. So she starts writing handwritten letters to this guy, and he writes back to her, and we very quickly find out that the guy that she's been writing to is Jeremy. And he ends up finding out too because they happen to be staying in the same apartment complex, and he sees her dropping off a letter in a very distinct envelope, and then the guy at the front desk hands him the envelope, and he's like, pieces it all together.
Messenger from Mizanski's will be here soon to pick this up.
Mizanski's. Got it.
Morning, Thomas. Any deliveries for me? To tell me that this is not a coincidence?
You're one lucky guy.
Now he has to deal with his feelings for her, but also her feelings towards him on both senses, because she likes him, but she also hates him. And he wants to try to figure out a way to make everything work, because he's not there to try to destroy her business, of course. He's trying to help his family business. He wants to figure out a way that they can coexist together.
I have to make some pretty hard decisions, and no matter what I do, someone's gonna get hurt. Especially a friend I care very much about.
And the reason that his family's business is the way it is because when they moved to LA from the old country, they wanted a place where they could have their meals and feel safe and feel at home. But they moved into a place with a bunch of different nationalities, and they also wanted places that, we want to eat somewhere that feels like home because we're in a strange land, in a strange place. So they were like, oh, then you give us recipes. We add it to the menu, and you can have your home-cooked, this in our deli.
My mother came here in 1914. She couldn't find the food that reminded her of home. They opened Zimmer so everyone should have a taste of home, no matter where they came from. Our menu is the American melting pot.
And that's why they have this huge giant menu of like 100+ items that they make everything of, because they want you to feel safe and at home, even if you're not, in another country. And it's I really liked the sentiment of that idea of that restaurant. I really thought that was a really cute way and a really interesting way of looking at, moving to a new country and, making everyone feel happy and safe. And basically the whole thing ends up diving down to a competition between the two delis to figure out who gets to have the space and who's the one that gets to survive. And it ends up breaking down to who could make the best of this dish.
Please, how can you make decent latkes when you're too busy making everything else under the sun?
I assure you, our latke recipe knows no equal.
I'll bet if we put our latkes side by side, People would say ours were by far the best.
I'll take that bet.
And I'm not going to spoil the ending for it, but I was not expecting it. It was a really good twist and works really well. As I said, this is very much a Shop Around the Corner or You've Got Mail. It's very much You've Got Mail. The only difference is in this one, the guy isn't actually trying to destroy her business, unlike in You've Got Mail. But I really like the characters in this, the way it's written. It is easily one of the best variations of Shop Around the Corner that I've come across, and Hallmark has done a lot of them. Like, I could easily do a list of like 5 or 6 of them that are just Hallmark versions of this plot. But this is honestly one of the best versions of it I've come across. You have really good characters with really good understanding and why they are the way they are and what's motivating them, and it just works really well. And now for the last one of the night, we are going to be talking about One Christmas Eve. My one negative with this film is the title, because One Christmas Eve is very generic. But I loved this film. Like, this film would have ended up on my list last year had I remembered that it was called One Christmas Eve. Because I remembered the film, I loved the film, but I couldn't tell you the title of it. And then literally like 2 or 3 weeks after I watched it, and I went, oh, it's this one. Dang it. But it's part of the reason why I considered doing this, because I really want to talk about this film, because this film is amazing. So, One Christmas Eve is stars Anne Heche and Carlos Gomez. So, Carlos Gomez is working in an office, and he's heading out for the night during a big snowstorm. Everything's shutting down, and he comes across this homeless puppy.
Happy holidays. Please find me a good home. You gotta be kidding me. What kind of person adopts a dog on Christmas Eve?
And he's like, well, I can't leave you out here to freeze and die, but he can't take the puppy home with him. He's like, okay, I'm going to find you a home. I'm going to find you a nice family to put you with. And he's driving around, and he ends up seeing this house with all these Christmas lights, and he sees a single mom with her 2 kids going into the house and goes, that looks like a great place for you.
In Hallmark Hall of Fame's One Christmas Eve, Mel Blakemore, played by Anne Heche, is a newly single mom who wants this Christmas to be the best ever.
So he takes the puppy and the box and sets it on the front door, rings the doorbell, turns to, go and hide, finds a patch of ice, slips, falls on his back, can't get up, and hurts his back. Anne Heche comes out, finds the puppy, finds him.
It starts when the delivery of a beagle pup to their front door goes horribly wrong. And it's all downhill from there.
They try to call an ambulance to come get them, but because of the snowstorm, this can't get through. So they're like, okay, we have to drive him to the hospital. So she and the puppy and her 2 kids and this guy get into the minivan, and they drive to the hospital. And the entire night just goes spiraling down from there, because it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. The puppy tries to escape a couple times. The kids get hurt, and one of them ends up breaking his arm. They ended up in a crashing. They end up in a snowbank. They nearly freeze to death in the snowbank waiting for a tow truck. They end up at the police station overnight. The police station's power goes out. It is the most mean-spirited Christmas film I have ever come across, and I absolutely love it. It is so much fun. So the entire thing is like, it's just the worst things happening to the best people, because these characters in this cast is stellar. Like, you got Anne Heche just playing this newly single mom trying to give her kids, a great Christmas for their first Christmas without their dad, and you just really feel for this family. Like, and I love that because you have Carlos, who has no connection to this family at the start of the story, and by the end he's basically part of the family. Like, he doesn't become the new dad or anything, but
to all of our new friends and to my children, the most precious gifts of my life. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
It's just so mean and so fun. This is truly deserves the title that it has. It's one of the Hallmark Hall of Fame films. It deserves that title. It's also the first of that series to ever air on the Hallmark Channel. And of all the ones that I've seen that fall under that title, this one is easily one of the best. It is legitimately ambitious and creative and unique and fun, and I really wish Hallmark made films like this anymore.
But bringing people together in winter's worst weather.
This is a big unlucky day for you people.
Will make it a holiday they'll cherish forever.
Because they don't even, they would never make this film today. They would never be this mean-spirited. They would never have any of this stuff in that. And it makes me sad, because this is such a creative and interesting and fun story. And I just can't even imagine them trying this today, because this one is so grounded and so realistic, and my brain is just automatically trying to make scenes that they would do now with that, and it just looks so fake and so bad and so terrible, and yeah. But it is definitely one of the best Hallmark films ever made. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. The only negative about it is the title is generic as heck. It should have been called Christmas Night from Hell or something like that. But it's called One Christmas Eve because it takes place all on one Christmas Eve. But those are my 5 for the day, for the year. What do you all think? Have you seen some of these films? Have you not seen some of these films? Did you like the films? What are your thoughts? Do you like me doing this format? Do you want this to become a more regular thing? I have a lot more of these films that I could talk. I could talk about stuff that isn't Christmas related if you want me to do something like that. Or I could do some themes ones. I could totally see doing a list one of these years that's just Hallmark doing, shop around the corner variations, or just good adaptations or reimaginings of big movies done as Hallmark films. Just a thought. What do you all think? Let me know. Happy watching, happy reading. I will see you all next time. Bye!